Well, welcome back into the Mid-Norfolk cottage garden, and we're in the vegetable garden this afternoon because I've come out to dig some what I'm hoping are going to be new potatoes. This little potato patch is a bit of an experiment, to be fair. These potato plants, as you can see now in first week of August, have died all the way back, and I think that's a consequence of them being mature and the drought that we had for a couple of weeks back in the end of July. So we're going to put a fork into these and just see what we're going to get up this year. When you're lifting potatoes, even new potatoes, you really need to get well away from the plants so you don't put the fork through the actual potatoes. There's nothing quite as disappointing as pulling your fork back and finding you've pierced the best ones. As soon as you open the earth, you start seeing what you've got. I'm not expecting big potatoes off these because they were planted quite late. And it is a mixed planting, this. You can see here I've got some small salad potatoes. This variety I think is pink fir apple. I'm getting a clue now why these potatoes may have died. If you just have a look in here, we've got an ant's nest. But let's just see if we pull these husks away. They are red ants as well, so I'm going to have to be very careful not to get covered in bites. But there's a fair crop of potatoes in here. I think I'm going to give them 10 minutes for the ants to dissipate. I'll keep digging along. And opening this row up. And yeah, a pretty good crop of little small new potatoes. I think helped along and finished by the ant nests under them, but they'll be none the worse for the ants. And we'll collect these up now, give them a wash off and have a look, see what the crop's looking like. Well, there we go. I've braved the red ants who are still scurrying around down here. Most put out by me digging up their nest, but they'll soon settle back into a new hole somewhere that they'll excavate. But looking at these potatoes, I'm pretty pleased, for they look pretty clean. I dug a total of 2 plants up to retrieve this colander full, which is probably cracking on for around 2 pounds of potatoes. I'm going to go and rinse them off in one of the water butts now. Just have a look at the skin, see how much scab we've got on them. And here we are after their first bath. They're not bad. There are quite a few with this scabby marking on the surface, which will scrape off if I just rub these down with a scouring pad inside under a tap. They'll clean up pretty well, and they're perfectly good to eat. They're just not as attractive as a nice clean new potato that you'd expect if these were grown from a certified seed potato, but of course these weren't. These are actually second year growth on a row of potatoes that were planted in the first lockdown, so last year, and then this year, because they hadn't been harvested because we planted far too many for our own use in a panic, they were just re-earthed up and let to grow again, and we are now taking an early crop off them as new potatoes, because I'm in no doubt if they were left to grow on, then they would get rot, and these won't store at all. And they've been grown in soil where potatoes have previously been grown the year before, so that makes them even more prone to rot and insect and slug damage and the blight that they've got on them. So these need to come up now. We need to use these over the course of summer as new potato salad, and then leave the soil clear for a couple of years without potatoes in it, so that the spores that remain in the soil get reduced, and then in a few years time, once we've rotated the harvest, we can go and plant further potatoes in that land. But all in all, not a bad, what's effectively a catch crop or a free potato crop that we didn't have to buy any seed for this year.